Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Hassan Jinani. My topic of presentation is significance of fossils. What are the fossils? Fossils are the remains and traces of ancient plant animals. Fossils form when ancient plant animals remains become hardened and filled with sedimentary rock or sometimes volcanic ash. Some of the most interesting fossils are formed when huge tree stumps, perfectly formed point grains, shell, or the bones of ancient fishes, reptiles, or mammals become saturated and hardened with materials such as silica or calcite, and this way are transformed into stone. What does it mean? That fossils are the remains of ancient plant and animals. That means that the animal and plant which existed in the past geological age and now they are not present, but their bones and soft and hard parts are preserved for the time being present. Therefore, they are called fossils. And in this way, the trees and point grains shells of the bones of ancient fishes, when they become after decay of their soft part, these hard parts are preserved in sands. Fossils are the important evidence of evolution because they show that life on Earth was once different from life on Earth today. It means that the fossils indicate that what are the types of animals or uh, plants existed in the past, and this because in modern world the evolution is the world is different, and in the life before the humans, the things were different, and that they were dinosaurs and Mesozoic and Cenozoic era, Jurassic era, and there are many species which evolved, and it shows how the evolution of life started, how the evolution of life grew. Fossils are the physical evidence of pre-existing organisms, either plant or animal. The most common and obvious fossils are the preserved skeletal remains of animal. Other fossils which are also evidence of past organisms, including leaf impression, tracks and trails, burrow dropping, and root cast. What are the index of fossils? Index fossils. Fossils which have short geological age but wide horizontal geographical location is called index fossils. What are the examples of index fossils? Fossils which have short geological age, some ammonites or some fossils which existed in the past, which are limited for a short geological age, the Mesozoic and Cenozoic, and after, but they are found in many of the but they were found in many areas such as Switzerland or on America, South America, and many other continents. They are called index fossils. Examples are brachiopods, trilobites, and all that. What is mold fossil? Mold fossil form an organism die and then layers of sediment cover it. What is mold? Mold means the imprint of the animal or plant on sand. When animal plant when an organism dies, such as horse or camel and dinosaur, after a decay of soft part, the hard parts forms an imprint or shadow or cast on the sediment. What is mold for cast fossil? It is called mold. What is cast fossil? Cast fossils are formed when the sediment fill up the mold. Fill up mold. When these sediments are filled with minerals, it forms creating a solid mass that resembles a rock. And that resembles a rock. This usually happens when water seeps through the deposits in the mold. As the mold is filled, the deposited material hardened, and which produce a copy of the original fossil. What does it mean? That when the fossils, the water seep into the mold, build minerals, when water goes in the mold, and it carries many minerals which started to fill the mold, and in this way a sediment of rock is present, which indicates a copy of image of the original fossil. It means that that when the water filled this mold, that it became a copy of original or imprint of the animal or plant which existed in the past. Trace fossils are called fossils. Trace fossils, which means that record behaviors and movement of prehistoric organisms like dinosaurs. Fresh fossils or trace fossils means the fossils of invertebrate. The fossils which are not which don't have any backbone or vertebral column, and they are existed as a but they existed as a tracks. They made traps of movement of invertebrate. They made movement in sand or in water. Their water, there is only their image is present, or sediment like structure is present, it resembles only tracks or trails. It is not a proper backbone or hard part is present. Significance of fossils. The main topic of my presentation is the significance of fossils. Fossils are traces of ancient life. For many people, the word fossil probably conjures an image of a bit of hardened bone or shell, which means that in case of significance of fossils, that normally when we talking about a fossil, and we might have an image of a bone or some skeletal type of image, but normally it is quite different from the image of the thing which is present. But not every bone or is not fossil, or not always we are talking about fossil. We are talking about some hard part. Instead of what, an importance of leaf, imprint of a leaf, a plant of ancient fossil of a leaf of a plant which exists, which shows imprint of anything. It can also be a fossil. Yeah, this type of things, and the scientists use fossils to get information about life and emotional relationship of organisms. How the evolutionary of relationship of organism understand or it continue, and we can also try to use fossils. How the for example, a brachiopod, what was, how many it has, its types, and how much the time period for it has is for limited for a time period, how much it get changes in it. Therefore it also conclude in a name of significance of fossils. It is used for that geological change of this place might have a volcanic shore or volcanic area. It is or not. Therefore in this case we are about understanding of geological age, geological change, what is geological change happening in that area. We can also use fossils. The oldest fossil on earth are about 3.8 billion years old, or almost a billion years younger than the planet itself. The oldest fossil which are found on earth is 3.8 billion years old. But organisms which are completely subvolted, jellyfish are less likely. There are two types of fossils. For example, fossils which are trace fossils, or animals which do not have invertebrate, they have less chances to be a fossil because of their invertebrate, or because of their they don't have any hard parts. Hard parts of body like teeth or bone can be are most likely to be there or to be a fossil. Therefore, it is a fact. Breaking into the fossils can also define how this organism behaved and how this organism be died because of some environmental changes. Because in everywhere we see that fossils can define that, because the fossils are the preserved remains of ancient life of animal or plant. Therefore, it exists that, or it tells that how this organism or plant reproduce, obtain its food, or how it became extinct from this world. Dating layers of the earth. Fossils aren't only to understand organisms. Geologists also use fossils for what called biostratigraphic correlation, which allows research to match layers of rock individual in different locations by age based on their similar the fossils in each rock layer. This information can be used to help understand which different layers of rock separate them. What I mean that dating layers of earth, fossils not only used for organisms to date organism how much this organism did, but it can also be used to in biostratigraphic correlation. Biostratigraphy, how much this how which allows researchers to match layers of rock individual, and how what is the age of the rock, because these fossils are found in sedimentary rocks or the ages or layers of rock. Therefore, if we are used to determine the age, then we can also conclude from that how is the age, what was the age of this bed, and what is the age of this rock. Therefore, it can also be helpful and to correlate the layers of rock in terms of organisms. Fossil and oil. Fossil also have practical commercial applications. For example, it means that the oil used in our energy and plastic industries tend to collect in specific type of rock layers. Because fossils can be used to understand the age of different rock layers are described above. Studying the fossil surface and digging oil wells can have workers locate oil gas rivers. because it means that if we are talking about commercial applications of fossils, that we get that there are the petroleum rocks which have petrol or oil rich or rich in oil minerals, and it can also contain fossils. Therefore it is easier to understand by the help of fossil that how is the age of this rock and how to locate the rock which have mineral or which have petroleum. Therefore, it is also used in identifying the layers of rock which are rich in petroleums. Evaluation. The first, perhaps one of the most important function of fossil from a scientific perspective is that they constitute one line of evidence for understanding evolution. For example, Darwin's theory of evolution, it tells us how is the evolution proceed by means of how the evolution proceed by means of different kinds of changes in it. Because if we are talking that Darwin said that according to some evolutionary theories, man is ape, or man was an ape in the past, or some species which converts their morphological properties and turns them into their species. Therefore, it can tell us about the evolution of past life. The fossil record. Fossilization is relatively rare process. Most organisms are not present in the fossil record because of all-bodied organisms. For example, usually don't form fossils, they can be kept in the fossil record, which means simply is that the fossil record is fossilization is a very rare process. Fossilization needs some specific condition, and it needs some, there might be a luck to. Not every organism which decay can be converted into a fossil, because normally the decay process is that the thing vanishes from earth. Not every animal who die because of any type of morphological changes or some type of environmental condition can be a fossil. Because but some therefore not every organism is become safe, and there is some right of fossil gaps in the fossil record that most animals which are not preserved cannot be termed as fossil. This might be, so for example, the soft-bodied animal, for example insects, and normally some type of cockroach, and this type of insects cannot the species of that relatively in the past cannot be become, we cannot give examples how much is that they can be a fossil. There is a gap between the fossil records of the history, because these animals become fossil. After that, there is a long gap between this stratigraphy and fossil area, and after that these type of animals become fossil, and such type of gap. Therefore, it is called the fossil record. The record which tells us how many organisms become fossil is called a fossil record. The third thing, what information can scientists get from fossils? How, if a scientist get a fossil, what kind of information it might be occurred? First is structure. The main information, the most basic information of a fossil can provide is what animal and plant look like. While a complete fossil is best for understanding body structure, even a partial fossil can provide valuable information. If a scientist get a proper fossil, and it can be useful to understand how is the animal or plant look like. For the first thing is that. But if you get a partial fossil means the parts of a fossil. If someone gets the neck of dinosaur, or someone gets the body of a dinosaur, then it can be said that we can conclude that he or she can, the scientist can predict the properties of a structure of a neck. Therefore, it can also give valuable information. It can also get from a fossil a structure of the animal or plant. Second thing is the environment. The condition of a fossil can indicate what type of environment existed at that time. Well-preserved and complete fossil might indicate a bog whose soft organic matter helped prevent the fossil from deteriorating. It means that what was the environmental condition of that time? What was the environment condition? If the fossil is found somewhere mountainous area, and can indicate that the type of the environment at a time was mountainous, or somewhat it can be mountainous or volcanic or sedimentary, or these type of environmental condition we can predict from a fossil. Dating. The relative depth of the fossil can give clues to when organisms lived. As the deeper they are buried, the older their fossil. The information can be verified by carbon dating, which can pinpoint a fossil age. It means that the relative depth, that if we have carbon in our body, after the body of carbon can indicate After the carbon will be converted into its original form. Therefore, the carbon started to residue from our body after our decay. Therefore, if we are identifying how much carbon if in the body is called carbonating. The scientists, when they get any fossil, they check their carbon percentage in it, and if the carbon percentage is less, then it indicate how much the fossil is, what is the age of the fossil, how many years have passed after becoming a fossil. Geology, we can find geology in different areas and indicate pattern in the movement of Earth's crust, scattering the remains of creation in one single place. Geology, we can understand the geology of the place. For example, if a body of an animal is found in one place and it can be also found in another place, it can also indicate that this body animal existed in both areas before the Great Continental Drift theory. Where fossils are discovered? What it means that where fossils are discovered. Fossils are discovered all found on all over the earth. However, fossil hunters have the most sufficient desert vision that can be used underwater millions of years ago. But scientists have discovered fossils on all continents, maybe even the meteoroid from Mars. What does it mean? Fossils are found it is not restriction that fossil is found in America, it cannot be found in Australia. Fossils are found all over the earth. But some normally fossil hunters they are anxious of finding fossils in desert region. It means that they will get a chance to have a fossil in desert area, which can be because it can be underwater million years of years ago. But fossil can be found in all continents. Once a new fossil bed or possible fossil bed discovered, if a new fossil bed is discovered in any place, a team of scientists usually come along to excavate that area. Then team of the scientists or team of the paleontologists go that area and they start to dug. And after that symmetrically sectioning of the site by suspecting dead planes, then carefully combining the earthworm specimen, everything about the site must be recorded, including geographical coordinate, elevation, the important pegmark features. Each specimen is carefully noted as to its location. The paleontologists use straws, ice, some layers of dirt are from that same time period. This is the method to determine, because all the things the scientists record, so that the geology to indicate a fossil. The need for detailed geological mapping of the area, rock, and minerals. First of all, we have to understand what is the geological time scale. A geological time scale is a calendar which divides the Earth's history into geological time period. This type of Earth calendar is based on evidence from rock formed as long ago as 4 billion years ago. A geological time scale is a time scale which divides the Earth in a specific period in geological periods, and it is 4 billion years ago. It is the Earth's calendar, which is based on the evidence of rocks. How is the rock? This time map is made by the help of rock ages. How is all the ages of the rock, and how is the Earth? Therefore, the fossils are very important for geological time scale, because the need for detailed geological mapping of the rock and minerals in the earth are matching up or correlation of rock layers are vital to research and discovery of the economically important minerals. Because this geological time scale is very much useful in terms of where the minerals can be found and where the economically important minerals, such as gas and petroleum, can be researched. Therefore, it is very frequent to find these minerals with the help of fossil, because sedimentary rock units are frequently recognized by the unique and distinctive rocks. Now we will discuss about the significance of brachiopods, which are the kind of fossils or body fossils. Brachiopods have a long geological history. Brachiopods, have long geological history. They have been found since the Cambrian period. Look at the spindle graph on the right. The width of the spindle represents the number and diversity of species of brachiopods through time. The earliest time is the bottom of spindle. Recent time is at the top. It is easy to see that the Paleozoic era was the time that favored the brachiopods. From the Ordovician period to the Permian period, they were abundant in genera and sheer number. The Permian extinction reduced their numbers. But I have read this paragraph, and this paragraph represents the significance or somewhat the evolution of brachiopods, that they have been around since the Cambrian period, because they show that it is helpful in geological time scaling. Why? How? Because they have been, they come from Cambrian time period, and after that the brachiopods, the recent time at the top, it is also find in the recent time an ordovician period to Permian period, and they are the collection of things. But I can say that it is geological history. Several ordered they survived the extinction, but brachiopods have never regained the abundance they enjoyed during the Paleozoic era. However, they may be the most plentiful fossils on Earth. They are used as index fossils. It means that there's many brachiopods are abundant during the Paleozoic era. After that, it became extinct on Earth. Several orders survived the extinction. Even the extinction of brachiopods, there are also many other orders, but brachiopods after the index Paleozoic era, they cannot be on the top of the position. However, they may be the most plentiful fossils on Earth. They are index fossils, which means that index fossils are the fossils which have short geological age. Where the brachiopods are limited for Paleozoic, and after that it started to extinct, and they cannot be found. But this is the significance of brachiopods, which is used for geological time scaling, which is somewhat Cenozoic era, Mesozoic, and which is a different time scale for geological mapping. Significance of gastropoda is an important animal or fossil which can be used is gastropoda. Significant gastropoda or bivalve phylum mollusca have been used by humans in various ways since prehistoric times. It means that this type of animal is used by humans for many prehistoric times, including as food, tools, accessories, and collection. It is used for food, tools, accessories, and collection. And human use is food, tools, and accessories, and for making of things. Consequently, many studies have completed detailed data on the ecology, life history, and habitat distribution. Many studies have been made on their ecology and distribution. In addition, they preserve well because of their hard calcium carbonate. Their gastropoda became extinct, preserved because of their hard calcium carbonate shell, because their shell is made up of calcium carbonate, which preserve them from the environmental changes. Therefore, molluscan fossils are important in the interpretation of environment deposition process, including fossils related to tsunami and extreme waves, which means that gastropoda survive because of the tsunami and extreme waves, because they have the shell made up of calcium carbonate. Gastropods are a class of shell invertebrate mollusks that play an important role in the marine and terrestrial fossil record. Where gastropods are entirely marine organisms, and they began play an important role in marine geology or marine history or terrestrial fossil. Terrestrial means the fossils which can be found on Earth as well as water. Their names come from the Greek word gastro, which means stomach, and the Greek word pod, which means pod. Which means that gastropods normally their shape of stomach. This is because the locomotion appears to take place on their belly. The gastropod started to move, or they can move from the locomotion from their belly. The most common form of the modern gastropods are the snails and slugs. And gastropods in modern era, the gastropods are the class of the phylum Mollusca, and it includes normally modern gastropods are snails and slugs, which are closely related to the cephalopoda head or foot. What is the other important creature which is found on Earth is significant cephalopoda. It is also a very important class of phylum Mollusca, and also an important animal for fossilization. Mollusca of the class Cephalopoda are diverse, species, marine carnivores that are judged to have achieved degrees of structural complexity and metabolic efficiency unmatched by any group of unsegmented invertebrates. The cephalopods are diverse predaceous marine carnivores because the cephalopods are carnivorous, they eat meat, and can be judged of the structural complexity, have a very complex structure and metabolic efficiency unmatched, and it has a metabolic property which is unmatched by other organisms of other unsegmented vertebrates. It has a geological importance or somewhat type of body structures or morphological property which is different from any type of other organisms, and it has a diverse and metabolic efficiency. They are generally characterized by bilateral symmetry. They have bilateral symmetry, well defined head. They have a well defined head, and they have undivided mantle there, and mantle is undivided, and by differentiation of the water from the mantle cavity to the funnel, or it is written there somewhat morphological characteristics. After that, cephalopods of considerable economic importance to humans. Cephalopods are very important for humans because many species of squid and octopus are eaten. Because cephalopods include animals such as octopus, which are eaten somewhere in China. Nautilus shells are often used decoratively, and the cephalopoda shells such as nautilus shells are used for decorative purpose. Internal shell of a cuttlefish or cuttlebone is sold in the pet trade as a calcium source for birds, and cephalopod is used for the as a prey, as a food or diet for birds. Giant cephalopods such as squid, octopus, or also gets of a sea monster flock roll. It is cephalopods are also called. This octopus is called a sea monster. It is believed that cephalopods evolved from ancient group of gastropods. It is believed that the gastropods are, when after their morphology, some species or some class of gastropods they convert into cephalopods. The fossil record of cephalopod is extensive, and more than 10,000 fossil species have been named. The fossil record of cephalopod is extensive. It has a very high fossil record. 10,000 fossils have been named. The fossils of cephalopods have been spread all over the globe. The fossils are found. The ammonites arose during the late Paleozoic and grew to largely number during the Mesozoic. Ammonites is a class of cephalopoda which during the Paleozoic appeared during Paleozoic and grew larger during Mesozoic. An ammonite and external coiled shell similar to that of Nautilus. Ammonite is also a class of cephalopoda which is similar to the other class of cephalopoda, Nautilus. Ammonites, for very successful scientists, have described 600 genera based on the shell type. Ammonites are the groups of cephalopoda or the class of cephalopoda which contained 600 generations, but they became extinct after the end of Mesozoic. Belemnites, which also appear in Mesozoic, had internal shells. The Belemnites, which is a class of gastropoda, have internal shells. They are believed to be the precursors of modern day squid and cuttlefish. Belemnites are the predators of cuttlefish. Another group of fossil is trilobites. Trilobites is also a class of a compound or class of a animal. Trilobites rank among the most important of early animals. Trilobites is also a very important early animal. Our knowledge of them has been gained from the study of their fossils, usually impression left of their shells after boiling sediment which subsequently hardened into a rock. We get information about trilobites after their fossils, which are left on the after the burial sediments, because their shells are when they decay, their shells buried in the sediments, which subsequently hardened into rock. And after time, as the time passed, it converted into rock. They appeared abruptly in the early part of Cambrian period. The trilobites appeared in the early Cambrian period, and they became dominant in Cambrian and early Ordovician seas. And when during Cambrian and Ordovician seas they become dominant, a prolonged decline then set in before they finally became extinct at the end of Permian period, about 25 million years ago. And they went extinct in 25 million years ago in Permian period. Trilobites are arthropods. They belong to the phylum Arthropoda. Like many invertebrate animals living in today, including cetaceans, spider insects, geologists know that they were marine animals because of the rocks in which they are found and type of fossils associated with them. Trilobites can also be determined by can also be helpful in determining the significance of fossil record of marine and they are marine animals which are like other gastropoda and cephalopoda. Geologists use trilobite in a variety of ways to understand how the earth has developed. Trilobites as similar to gastropoda and cephalopoda is also used for understanding how the earth was developed. One use is the relative dating and stratigraphic correlation of sedimentary rocks. How the sedimentary rocks are correlated, especially the Cambrian rocks, and how the trilobites is important and for how is the age of rocks and correlating sedimentary rocks and other thing. And trilobites are particularly important for correlating Cambrian paradoxes. For example, occurs in England, found in Spain, seven show that the rocks are of the Middle Cambrian age. Other such used trilobites include species of Merida and the Lower Ordovician and Sea. What it means that similarly correlating rocks. Another use of trilobites in geology in reconstructing past geography, paleogeography, and past environmental. The early Ordovician trilobites, particularly is found in northwest Scotland, but not as in Britain, although it can be found in North America. And means of geology is that it is also found in paleo environment or paleogeography. It is not only relating the correlating of rocks sedimentary, but also used in trilobiting. In trilobites is used for the how was the before the continental drift action. What was the it is found in many areas. For example, it is found in northwest Scotland. It is also found in Britain, which means it tells us that these fossils of all these trilobites are found in all the areas, and it helps in and specifying the paleogeography of the area. Now we will discuss about the significance of plant fossils. What is the plant fossils like, and how it is helpful on the study, and what is the importance and significance of plants. The study of plants in the fossil record in order to understand both the evolution of plant and ecology of ancient era is known as paleobotany. The paleobotany is the study of plant and its fossil record. Only a small percentage of the plants that ever lived left a record of their existence, surviving the fossils. As compared to animals, the plant very less plants became fossil after their decay. Paleobotanists document this fossil record and use this to interpret the past evolution of plants. Paleobotanists use this fossil record to interpret or to understand the past evolution of how the plants grew in the early time. As most organisms decompose rapidly after death, their preservation nature is a rare event. Most individuals are not represented in the fossil record, and even many species that must have existed have vanished without a trace. Researchers now all evidence for origin of the earliest vascular plant and the formation of reproductive structures such as cones of gymnosperms and flowers of agiosperms. Location of fossils, including both their temporal age and their habitat arrangement, is used to determine past climates. Like the organisms because the decay after the plant and their not preservation is there, the plants also include this type of process, and therefore even many species that must have existed have vanished without trace. Now researchers said that the vascular plants, the original vascular, the plants which are first existed is were vascular plants, formation of reproductive structures such as cones of and many things located that location we can also have they can have the plant fossils. We can also indicate the geographical and climatic conditions of that area. The climate of the world has changed continuously as continents have shifted over the Earth's surface. For example, the location of cold deposits, which are the remains of giant tree farms which is now in Venezuela, indicate the warmer climate that must have existed then, which means the climate of the world have changed continuously nowadays. Therefore, location of cold deposits because continent which are shifted towards which are due to quantity fluid have moved towards the other places. It will therefore the location of the coal or the cold deposits which are the remains of the giant tree. It also indicates the giant tree as the body is the surface of Earth against changes. Therefore, it also helpful in making the plant how was the plant is growing. The climate of the world have changed continuously as continents have shifted over the Earth. The presence of Gastro Paris is supporting evidence for the reversionary theory of continental drift during the mid-19th century. Some fossils of the plants are widespread all over the continents, but after the continent free as the continent shifted and the fossils of the plants also shifted places to places. Therefore, we can also count these the type of presence of Glastonburis. Glastonburis is a kind of plant which shows plant fossil. Glastonburis, the plant fossil, which shows the presence of continental theory, or it is a basic evidence for continental theory, because this plant is found everywhere in the many areas of the continents, and it indicates that the earth was moved in the past. Scientists suggest that at least some of the plants were judicial because the leaves are often found preserved in thick mats due to be the result of seasonal shedding. At that point, they became not only point for understanding our history, they start contributing to fuels and that are still used today. Some plants which have their leaves are found on the preserved in thick mats, which means that the leaves of some plants are found in thick mats or thick muds, which can be used for understanding the history, because the leaves of the ancient plants can tell us how was the environment during that time, and also help in contributing the fuels and materials which can also use today. Significance of plant fossils also is a significance. A study of fossil plant has important understanding of the origin and evolution of different plant groups through ages. It also tells us the evolution of different plant groups, how and their ages. There are several examples in support of the origin of land planets. A more dramatic event took place in the history of plant life: evolution of land plants during Silurian period. There are many plants which existed in the past. Fossil indicate what was the time of their origin. A most dramatic event took in the history of the evolution of some plants which occurred during the Silurian period. The study of fossil plant has applied significance in understanding the biological sequence which provides evidence to trace the plant evolution through ages. Where after studying the plant fossils, which it is helpful in biostatistical sequence, which can be used for placing the plants. In this context, we have to expect correlation data showing quantitative and qualitative value of derived fossil data, use of fossils for comparison to get the empirical value in terms of appearance, duration of dominance, and then gradual disappearance through migration, experimentation due to climate and the factors, excavation of biostratigraphic scale. What does it mean? The correlation of data, if plant fossil is used for correlation of data of quantitative as well as qualitative, and also used for fossil is used for the empirical in terms of appearance, how what was the time of the appearance and what was the time of the dominion, or what was the time of their gradual disappearance. Radioactive elements are generally used for dating the rocks, but sometimes index fossils are used to date a rock of unknown origin. As index fossils, the rock contain carefully studied with precise information about the symmetry and age. Use of index fossils, the age of unknown rock can be intertwined. Now we use now today we are used radioactive elements for dating the rocks. What was the radioactive element? But sometimes index fossils or can also be used for dating the rocks. These index fossils can be helpful in such as plant fossils, which are index fossils, helpful in study the age of rocks. It is the last part of my presentation. Hope we have understand the significance of plant fossils in our life.